قال المصنف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. فصل, section. وخمسة أوقات لا يصلى فيها. There are 5 times in which prayer is not performed. إلا صلاة لها سبب, unless it were a prayer that has a reason. بعد صلاة الصبح, after dawn prayer. That means after praying dawn prayer. Sometimes the time for not praying starts by you finishing a prayer. Once you finish the prayer, then after that you can't pray. Before that you could pray. حتى تطلع الشمس, until the sun rises. So after you finish your Fajr prayer, that's it, no more prayers. Unless you have makeup prayers, for example, that you need to do. But if you're all caught up and you don't have previously existing reason, or, well, we will see, you don't have an excuse to pray, then you don't pray until the sun rises. وعند طلوعها حتى تتكامل وترتفع قدر الرمح. And while it's rising, until it has become plain, the sun risen over the horizon, and has risen, until the sun completely rise, until the disk of the sun, the whole circle of the sun, comes up over the horizon. وَتَرْتَفِعَ قَدْرَ الرُّمْحِ, and it will ascend as high as a spear. As high as a spear. That means, according to your perspective, as high as a spear, in your perspective. وَإِذَا اسْتَوَتْ حَتَّى تَزُولْ, and when the sun is at its zenith, until it moves out of that position. وَبَعْدَ الْعَصْرِ, and after Asr, so that's like Fajr. The time for not praying after Asr starts by finishing Asr. حَتَّى تَغْرُبَ الشَّمْسِ, until the sun sets. وَعِنْدَ غُرُوبِهَا, and while it is setting, حَتَّى يَتَكَامَلَ غُرُوبُهَا, until the disk of the sun is completely below the horizon. الشرح, the explanation. الأوقات التي تكره الصلاة التي لا سبب لها فيها خمسة. The times in which prayer is disliked, when it does not have a reason, are 5. The prayer is disliked here. Some said it's haram, these spots are haram. And whether you say it's disliked or you say it's haram, the prayer is not valid. لا تنعقد, it won't be initiated. ثلاثة تتعلق بالزمان. 3 of those are related to time. وهي وقت طلوع الشمس, that's the time of sunrise. حتى ترتفع قدر رمح, until the sun rises over the horizon the amount of a spear. That's approximately 7 hand spans. Approximately 7 hand spans. A hand span is when you spread your fingers. That's the distance from your thumb to your pinky. That's a hand span. The sun rising over the horizon, the height of a spear is approximately 7 hand spans. وَوَقْتُ الْإِسْتِوَاءِ حَتَّى تَزُولْ. Another time is noon. Istiwa, the real noon, which is when the sun is in the center of the sky, not 12 o'clock. I advise you, brothers and sisters, to think according to Islamic rules. Don't think according to non-Islamic rules. Make non-Islamic rules secondary, not primary. Like what? Like you say the night comes before the day, not the day comes before the night. And also you say the night is from Maghrib until Fajr. So that means when it's 12 midnight, that's not morning. It's still nighttime. So don't believe that it's morning when it's nighttime. See how our religion has guidance. The non-Muslims, they're not guided in a lot of things. What's noon, real noon? That's when the sun is at the center of the sky, not 12 o'clock. Istiwa. Then you cannot pray. وعند الإصفرار حتى يتم غروبها. And another time is when the sun is intensely yellow and the light on the walls is yellow before the sun goes down. At that time you can look at the sun and it won't hurt your eyes. وحجة ذلك ما رواه مسلم عن عقبة بن عامر رضي الله عنه. The evidence for that is what Muslim narrated from Uqbah ibn Amir, may Allah accept from him, أنه قال, that he said, ثلاث ساعات كان ينهانا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن نصلي فيهن. There are 3 times when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade us from praying then. أو نقبر فيهن موتانا, or to bury our dead then, to pray then, or to bury our dead then. حين تطلع الشمس بازغة, when the sun rises, or when the sun is rising clearly, حتى ترتفع, until it comes up. وحين يقوم قائم الظهيرة حتى تميل الشمس, and when the sun is at its zenith until it tilts. وحين تضيف الشمس للغروب, and when the sun tilts towards setting. والمراد بالدفن في هذه الأوقات, and what's meant by burying at these times, or burial at these times, أن يترقب الشخص هذه الأوقات لأجل دفن الموتى فيه. It means one should not wait those times out. One should not seek those times in particular for burial. And there's a difference between, for example, happening to be at that time and then you did it, and setting that time aside, waiting for it or watching out for it so that you would do it at that time. وأما الوقتان الآخران فيتعلقان بالفعل. Now, as for the other times, the other 2 times when it's haram to pray, so we said there's 5 times. We just gave 3. One of those is when the sun is rising. Can't pray then. Another is when the sun is at its zenith. Can't pray then. And the third is when the sun is ready to set. So when the sun is rising until it gets as high as a spear, then you can pray duha. When the sun is at its zenith, that's a very short time, but nevertheless, if you catch that time and say Allahu Akbar, your prayer won't be valid. Until the sun tilts out of its zenith, then you can pray dhuhr. And then when the sun is setting and it's yellow. Sister, you have a question?
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes.
I just wanted to confirm, when the sun is at its zenith, that's the noon time.
That's correct. That's real noon.
Right. Okay, shukran.
You're welcome. So the daytime is from Fajr until Maghrib. And the nighttime is from Maghrib until Fajr. And so 12 a.m., what's that? That's nighttime. When does morning start? Fajr time. That's what our religion taught us. And what's noon? Zenith time. That's real noon. The night comes before the day. So for me, this is Friday night. Tomorrow will be Friday. وَأَمَّا الْوَقْتَانِ الْآخَرَانِ فَيَتَعَلَّقَانِ بِالْفِعْلِ. Now as for the other two times when it's haram to pray, those are related to action. بِأَنْ يُصَلِّيَ الصُّبْحَ أَوِ الْعَصْرِ. By a person praying dawn prayer or afternoon prayer. فَلَا يُصَلِّي بَعْدَ صَلَاةِ الصُّبْحِ صَلَاةً لَا سَبَبَ لَهَا. And so one should not pray after the dawn prayer any prayer that does not have a reason, a previously established reason. إِلَى أَن تَطْلُعَ الشَّمْسِ. Until the sun rises. Yani rises as high as we know. وَلَا بَعْدَ أَن يُصَلِّيَ الْعَصْرِ. Nor should one pray after performing the Asr prayer. إِلَىٰ أَن تَغْرُبَ الشَّمْسِ. Until the sun sets. أي يغيب كامل قرصها. Meaning its complete disk has disappeared below the horizon. فَإِذَا قَدَّمَ الصُّبْحَ أَوِ الْعَصْرِ طَالَ وَقْتُ الْكَرَاهَةِ. And so, based on this, the earlier one prays the dawn prayer or the afternoon prayer, the longer his haram time to pray will be. وَإِذَا أَخَّرَ قَصُرَ. And the later one prays the dawn prayer or afternoon prayer, the shorter his haram time to pray will be. There's a story attributed to Dhunnun al-Misri. One person said, as it was reported, that he was with Dhunnun al-Misri in one of the mountains. One of the mountains means like in the area of one of the mountains. So it could be like some woods there. There's a mountain there, and there's a surrounding woods, for example, and streams and things like that. So he said that Dhunnun al-Misri suddenly wanted to go somewhere. So he told that man who was with him, wait here, just wait for me. So the man said, I stayed there for, I don't remember now, how many days, where he was. He stayed where he was. He said, I was eating plants from the ground and I was drinking water from the streams, waiting for the sheikh to come back. He said, until he came back. And when he came back, he was like, as if he was crazy. And he wasn't crazy, but he just looked like so blown, so mind blown, so astonished. It was like he was crazy. So he said, I said to him, were you attacked by predators? He said, spare me the human intimidation. I went into one of the caves here, and I saw there a slave of Allah praying, and he looked ghastly as if he just came out of his grave. He said, that slave of Allah, he stayed in there and he prayed and he didn't even acknowledge me, and I was in there with him. And he prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and just kept praying until he prayed Asr. Then after he prayed Asr, he sat and put his back up against the wall of the cave and started making dhikr. And then he said, what he talked to him about. He asked him questions and talked to him. He said he didn't even give me salam at first, even though I was in the cave with him, until I started. He said I had to, and he wouldn't talk unless I talked to him. And he said, amongst what he said, now the reason I told you the story was that he prayed and prayed and prayed until Asr. All day he prayed until Asr. He said he was in that cave for several days with that man. And at one point he fainted, this man, the ghastly man who was in the cave, said he fainted for some days. He was unconscious. We talk about people that are awliya, so pious that they would faint from the fear of Allah. Their hearts fear Allah so bad, so much, that if that fear struck them, they might faint. They would faint. And then when he woke up, he said, the man asked me how many prayers I missed. I missed, what, a prayer or two? He said, no, you missed a couple days. He said he went to the stream, he made wudu, he made up his prayers. And he said that that man died while he was there in the cave with him. He said, while I was there, he died in that cave. He said as soon as he died, some people started coming in the cave and they took his body so they could take him to bury him. As soon as he died, he said, as soon as he died, some people came in there and took his body. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. That just gave me goosebumps. وحجة ذلك ما رواه الشيخان عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه. And the evidence for that is what the two sheikhs have narrated from Abu Hurairah. May Allah accept his deeds. أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن الصلاة بعد العصر حتى تغرب الشمس وبعد الصبح حتى تطلع الشمس. That the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbade a prayer after the afternoon prayer until the sun sets, and after the dawn prayer until the sun rises. ومقتضى كلامهم أن من جمع تقديم وصلى العصر مجموعة في وقت الظهر. And so what that would dictate, if this is the rule, that the time starts by completing Asr, if that's the rule as stated, then if someone combined prayers and prayed Asr at Dhuhr time, وصلى العصر مجموعة في وقت الظهر إما لسفر أو مرض أو مطر, either for travel or for sickness, according to those who validate it for sickness, or because of rain, أنه يكره له, that it would be disliked to pray after that Asr, even though the Asr time didn't come in yet. But according to saying that, after praying Asr, it's disliked to pray. Yani, it's not valid. And some said that's haram. So is that the case, or really that starts at Asr time? As long as he's still inside Dhuhr time, he's good, and then starts at Asr time. So we're saying no, it starts when he finishes that Asr in Dhuhr time. وَهُوَ كَذَلِكَ, and that's the case. It would be disliked. وَهَلِ الْكَرَاهَةُ كَرَاهَةُ تَحْرِيمٍ أَوْ تَنْزِيهٍ فِيهِ وَجْهَانِ. And is this dislikeness we're talking about actually a prohibition, or is it less than a prohibition? Which, regardless though, your prayer is not going to be initiated at that time. أصحهما في الروضة وشرح المهذب في هذا الباب التحريم. What's most accurate according to the books Al-Rawdah and the explanation of Al-Muhadhab is that this is haram. Praying at those times is haram. نص عليه الشافعي في الرسالة. Ash-Shafi'i documented that in the Risalah. So according to that, a person would have a sin for initiating a prayer at that time, and it won't start. It won't initiate, actually. وعلى القول بأن الكراهة للتنزيه فالصلاة لا تنعقد على الأصح. And even according to the saying that it's only disliked, the prayer still will not start. ثم إذا قلنا بمنع الصلاة في هذه الأوقات فيستثنى زمان ومكان. Now furthermore, when we say that it's not permissible to pray at these times, there is still some exception. A time is excluded, and a place is excluded. فأما الزمان فعند الاستواء يوم الجمعة. The excluded time is noon on Friday. Noon on Friday. وأما المكان, and as for the place, فمكة زادها الله تعالى شرفا وتعظيما. The place is Mecca. May Allah increase it in honor and nobility. فلا تكره الصلاة فيها في شيء من هذه الأوقات. Prayer is not disliked in Mecca at any time. None of these times apply in Mecca. سواء صلاة الطواف وغيرها. Whether it's 2 rak'ahs you want to pray before you make tawaf around the Kaaba, or any other 2 rak'ahs. In Mecca, it doesn't apply. وَالْمُرَادُ بِمَكَّةَ جَمِيعُ الْحَرَمِ. And what's meant by Mecca here is the Haram, the sacred territory. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he permitted prayer there. وَهَذَا كُلُّهُ فِي صَلَاةٍ لَا سَبَبَ لَهَا. And all of what we said is concerning a prayer that has no reason. وَأَمَّا مَا لَهَا سَبَبْ. But concerning what has a reason, فَلَا تُكْرَهُ. Then it would not be disliked. وَالْمُرَادُ بِالسَّبَبِ السَّبَبُ الْمُتَقَدِّمِ أَوْ الْمُقَارِنِ. And what's meant by a reason is a previously existing reason, or even a present reason, a simultaneous reason, a present reason. فَمِنْ ذَوَاتِ الْأَسْبَابِ قَضَاءُ الْفَوَائِتِ. One of the reasons is making up missed prayers, كَالْفَرَائِضِ وَالسُّنَنِ, whether they were obligatory or optional. Since the time for that prayer already came in, then you have a previously existing reason. You can make it up even if it's a sunnah prayer. وَالنَّوَافِلِ الَّتِي اتَّخَذَهَا الْإِنسَانُ وِرْدًا. And any voluntary prayers that a person has taken as a habitual practice for himself. It's important to have a wird, W-I-R-D, wird, wow, ra, dal, for yourself, each one of you. Yani, I know some Muslims are very worshipful, and some Muslims are maybe feel like you're just such a layman, right? And you're nothing special. That's how you feel about yourself, perhaps. Regardless, it's important to have a wird, which is going to be a habitual practice for yourself. Whether it's easy, whether it's challenging, something that you do it all the time. You take it for yourself. And you stick to it. It might be fasting certain days. Could be Monday and Thursday like a sunnah, or it could be whatever you do that's not makruh, not disliked. Or a charity that you give, or some prayers you pray, some rak'ahs you pray, or a dhikr that you do once a day, twice a day, whatever it might be, some wird you have. That's your personal, your customized wird. Take from the sunnah that all that's there, and you customize for yourself something, and you make it your routine. So if you had some prayers that you do that's your own wird, you can make them up if you miss them. وَإِعَادَةُ الصَّلَاةِ حَيْثُ شُرِعَتْ. And even repeating a prayer if such a repetition is sanctioned. كَالصَّلَاةِ الْمُنْفَرِدِ وَالْمُتَيَمِّمِ وَنَحْوِهِمَا. Like when someone prayed alone and then he found someone to pray in jama'ah with. So it's sanctioned to repeat the prayer here, even if it's at that time. Or like a person who made tayammum and he has to repeat his prayer. Review the rules of tayammum. You know, sometimes you'll make tayammum and pray, and you're still going to have to make up your prayer anyway. Remember, there's times when you're going to have to pray and you're going to have to make it up anyway, even though you pray. That applies in tayammum, and that applies in having a cast sometimes. He said, if you fast the sunnah days habitually, if you have make-up fasts, can you fast sunnah days? If you have make-up fasts, obligatory make-up fasts, so it depends on if you missed them, the obligatory ones, if you missed them with an excuse or not. If you don't have an excuse for missing them, then you can't delay them so that you can do something sunnah. وَتَجُوزُ صَلَاةُ الْجِنَازَةِ وَسُجُودُ التِّلَاوَةِ وَالشُّكْرِ وَالصَّلَاةُ الْكُسُوفِ. And also during those times, it's permissible to pray funeral prayer, and it's permissible to prostrate for recitation and to prostrate for thanks, because those are types of prayers. And it's permissible to pray the eclipse prayer. وَلَا تُكْرَهُ صَلَاةُ الْإِسْتِسْقَاءِ فِي هَذِهِ الْأَوْقَاتِ. And it's not disliked to pray the rain prayer at these times, عَلَى الْأَصَّحِ, according to what's most accurate. وقيل تكره كصلاة الاستخارة لأن صلاة الاستخارة سببها متأخر. And it was said that this rain prayer, it is disliked to pray it at those times. Like istikhara. What if you wanted to pray 2 rak'ahs for istikhara? Then wait. If you're in any of those times, wait. Don't do it now. So you might say, isn't that a reason though? Yeah, but it's not a previously existing reason, and it wasn't also a present reason. What we mean by present, what I'm saying, I'm translating as present reason. Muqarin, a simultaneous reason. It wasn't already there. So just take away from this though, let's make this easy. Rain prayer, not disliked at any of those times. That's most accurate saying. Istikhara though, yes, because it doesn't have previously existing reason. We're basically saying it was the end of the day and you said, oh, maybe I should pray istikhara now. So no, you shouldn't. You wait now. وكذا تكره ركعة الإحرام على الأصح لتأخر سببها وهو الإحرام. Also, it would be disliked at these times to pray 2 rak'ahs for ihram. You want to get into a state of ihram. At any of those times, it would be disliked to pray at those times for that reason. وَأَمَّا تَحِيَّةُ الْمَسْجِدِ Now, as for saluting the masjid, that's 2 rak'ahs you pray when you enter the masjid, not musalla, masjid. فإن اتفق دخوله في هذه الأوقات لغرض. If one's entering the masjid at these times happens to be at any of these times for some goal, كاعتكاف أو درس علم, like the goal of doing i'tikaf, the worship of being in the masjid, or the goal of going to a lesson, أو انتظار الصلاة, or to go so that he can wait for the next prayer to come in. So if his entering the masjid, why is there a question here about his entering the masjid? Because there's tahiyatul masjid, praying 2 rak'ahs, just because you entered the masjid. So what if one happens to have entered the masjid at one of these haram times, not musalla, masjid? Then if he went in there at such times for some goal, like to do i'tikaf, or to attend a lesson, or to wait for the next prayer to come in, وَنَحْوِ ذَلِكَ, and the likes of that, لَمْ تُكْرَهْ عَلَى الْمَذْهَبِ لِوُجُودِ السَّبَبِ الْمُقَارِنِ, then it won't be disliked to pray a salute to the masjid, 2 rak'ahs at those times, because of the reason being present. وَإِن دَخَلَ لَا لِحَاجَةٍ, but if he entered the masjid for no reason, بَلْ لِيُصَلِّيَهَا, rather he only went in there to pray those 2 rak'ahs, فَتُكْرَهْ, or to pray at those times, then that's disliked. كَمَا لَوْ أَخَّرَ الْفَائِتَةَ لِيَقُضِيَهَا في هذه الأوقات. Just like had one delayed a missed prayer just to pray them at those times, that would be disliked. Wallahu a'lam, and Allah knows best.